Should Sean McVay retire?
Absolutely. Because what else does he have to accomplish? That's where I'm at with this, Sal. And again, if Sean McVay loves coaching, then no, he shouldn't retire. It's a Sean McVay thing. But when I'm looking at it, if I were the CEO of Sean McVay Enterprises, that's the best way to say it.
Yes, let's go.
If I were removing myself emotionally and I were the CEO of Sean McVay Enterprises, I would say it is in your best interest as the company of Sean McVay to retire. Sean McVay, when you play football, when you coach football, you can win and you can lose. But when you're a commentator, you can't lose. So move into commentating, make significantly more money, estimates roughly $20 million a year if he were to go out there and be the highest paid, which he would deserve to be. Roughly $20 million a year. You can't lose. You only work 5 months out of the year. Why in the world, as the CEO of Sean McVay Enterprises, would I advise Sean McVay to keep coaching, to try to be the greatest coach of all time? At a minimum, that would take him another 10, 15, 20 years to accomplish, even if everything went right. And at a maximum, he'd waste 10, 15, 20 years trying to accomplish it just to fall short and end up with less money and more stress. Sean McVay has nothing left to prove, man. Youngest coach to ever win a Super Bowl. He has a Super Bowl. He could retire as the current greatest coach. And he could leave a legacy because he already has a coaching tree, like you said.
Yeah.
I always say, I don't care so much about my own accomplishments, but what have I encouraged other people around me to do? And Sean McVay already has encouraged other people around him to go to that next level, to go to a higher level. If you're Sean McVay, go ahead and hang that thing up and let other people do the work for you.
Man, I disagree with that, even though you make a strong argument as the CEO of Sean McVay Enterprises. But there's one person I want to talk to that has even more power than you, Sean McVay.
Yes, sir.
Here's a little rhyme I used to always say. Had to write it back down. Old school F-A-Y. What's up, boy? I think you're joking when you break up before it's broken. Now, why did I write that rhyme? Because I used to have a lot of girlfriends that would break up with me. And I was like, you playing, right? We still had something left in the tank. I used to look at these relationships. But then it came to play for real in my life when I was an NFL player. And I started to just do my sociology experiments of who's retiring and why are they retiring, right? And then finally I find myself in that same position after 10 years in the league. And most guys have made a negotiation and an agreement that their better days are behind them, therefore it's time to move on. Can Sean McVay say that? Can Sean McVay look in the mirror, forget the CEO, Acho, and look at himself and say, my better days are behind me. I'm the youngest to ever win a Super Bowl. I've been to 2 of these things in 5 years. And let's be real, my ego is saying, you give me any quarterback, I'll take him to the Super Bowl. You give me a good one, I'll win it. And he's going to leave to go somewhere else when there's still so much left to accomplish. It's not that what's attracting him isn't better in terms of compensation or maybe even lifestyle. It's the fact that he hasn't exhausted enough or all of his greatness at what he's currently doing. So if you're in that situation, Acho, ever in life, and someone just comes at you and they're trying to dump the whole Brinks truck on you, and they're like, here's all the money in the world. You know who is tempted by that? Everybody. You know who actually acts on that? Someone who thinks that this is the best opportunity for him. When you can look at Sean McVay, this isn't just the only opportunity, therefore this is not the best opportunity. What if Sean McVay coaches next year and wins another Super Bowl? Whatever he's waiting to do next just got better. What if Sean McVay doesn't win a Super Bowl, but he continues to coach, continues to show his greatness, and then all of a sudden says, I want to go to television? Did that opportunity go away? Hell no. Is he going to ever lose his status right now? As he was inspired and mentored by John Gruden, who ended up having this quarterback camp that built his brand so big that he went back to coaching a decade later and got the biggest contract in coaching history. Sean McVay has what we all seek, whether it's through education, whether it's through wealth, options. The dude has options, but I'll tell you one option he doesn't have, for real, is to look in the mirror and tell himself that his best days are behind him. That's not an option. So therefore, I think he stays still, drinks Bud Lights, and coaches next year.
He does have options. For me, it's just what's the best option, y'all? The greater question Sean McVay should ask himself is not, have I exhausted all options? But rather, am I exhausted?
Huh.
I think that's the greater question. Because has he exhausted all options? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like Sel said, he could win again. But the better question is, am I exhausted?
All right, boss.
I've heard a lot of things from inside the locker rooms of people who know Sean McVay very well. He does not take losing well. If you look at Sean McVay's track record, the losses cluster up. He gets so down about a loss from what I've heard from those inside the locker room that's why he loses again. Some coaches are like, man, I don't want to play an opposing coach after a loss. Typically after a loss, that team's going to bounce back and win.
Yeah.
But Sean McVay, you actually want to play him after a loss because that's typically when he loses again. Let me give you all an example.
Give it to me.
2017, Sean McVay had 2 losses over a 4-week span twice. That happened. 2018, Sean McVay had his back-to-back losses in weeks 14 and weeks 15. But here's an even more interesting picture. Remember, the only year Sean McVay didn't make the playoffs was the year after he lost in the Super Bowl. Okay, let's go back from the micro. Let's get back to the micro. 2020, Sean McVay had 2 losses in 3 weeks, and then he had back-to-back losses later in the season. And then we all know this year, Sean McVay lost not 1, not 2, but 3 games in a row. So Sean McVay's track record does, in fact, align with what I've heard from those inside the locker room who know him well. He doesn't handle losing well.
Okay.
You just won. You won the biggest game of all games, the Super Bowl. Why would you go back and enter into a space where you might lose? But beyond that, Sel, if I recall from 30 minutes ago, I asked you your mission statement.
Yes.
And you said something along the lines of you want to leave your kids in a better life and society than you had.
Yeah, give my family more than I was given.
Great.
Yes.
Give my family more than he was given.
Yes.
Well, what's Sean McVay's football family? Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor was Sean McVay's quarterback coach in that 2018 Super Bowl. What has Zach Taylor been given now? A head coaching opportunity, and Zach Taylor was just in the Super Bowl. What's Sean McVay's football family? His offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
What's his offensive coordinator been given now? The chance to be a head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. What's Sean McVay's football family? Brandon Staley, his defensive coordinator last year. What's Brandon Staley been given now? The opportunity to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. So if your life goal to some degree aligns with Sean McVay's life goal, he's given his football family more than they ever could have imagined. 3 head coaches, one of which just coached in the Super Bowl. I think he's done his job.
This is new. This is a new mental dynamic in this world today. And it's been going on maybe a decade, but everyone's thinking monetization, and that's actually in priority.
Okay.
So what your efforts are, you're not fully focused on them because you're trying to monetize them into something greater. And I'm not mad at that motto. I wish the motto existed when I was younger, because then I'll be more experienced in that motto. But I noticed that people are on social media not exactly with the purest of hearts and create content, but to monetize whatever is done. You know what comes from that? You start doing things out of character. You start doing things you don't really fully desire just to monetize it, or at least be in position to monetize it. That's not true for everybody, though. There are some people who just don't want to pop off, and they're like, I'm going to be authentic. Sean McVay is a coach to the core. And if now we're going to try and make him be a part of the new model and say, yeah, that sounds great, but you can monetize it, Acho, CEO of Sean McVay Enterprises, I don't think that's his spirit. I don't think that's his calling.
Yes, sir.
And more importantly, why I think that is because look at his success. More importantly, look at the success that he's breeding for others. Why stop that train right now just because, hey, take your money and run? I don't think Sean McVay is built like that. If he were built like that, I don't think he could be Sean McVay this great, this fast.
Now genuinely interested in just a simple dialogue,
Let's
not
talk.
necessarily an argument. And this has been, I think, one of my favorite shows that I've done in the 18 months here.
You hear that, Shanks? You hear that, Shanks?
Is Sean McVay's desire to be a coach, or is Sean McVay's desire to be a teacher? Because all the coach truly is a teacher with a little enhanced motivation. Sean McVay, as the coach of the Rams, can only coach, a.k.a. teach, roughly 63, 68 men with now the enhanced practice squad roster, totality of the staff, maybe 100 individuals. But Sean McVay is an analyst, can coach, a.k.a. teach, based upon the Super Bowl we just saw 2 days ago, roughly 100 million individuals. So if Sean McVay desires to be a coach, I'm with you. But if Sean McVay desires to be a teacher, you can teach, what is that, 100 million X or 10 million X what you're currently teaching now in Los Angeles to the nation.
That's why I'm mad that the model just hit me not so recently, because you're right. Like, at your core principles, now you can touch all corners of the globe like that. Or you could coach the Los Angeles Rams. And it just seems now we're in a place where that seems a little minimum versus what he can do in terms of maximum exposure. And you get paid more, and it's a better lifestyle. But I don't know, you can't give up on a good thing, just chasing anything.